Thanks everyone for listening today. I'm actually talking to you from the original office that Game of Thrones Ascent was written in. Me and a handful of a few other people, 6, 7 years ago, developed Game of Thrones Ascent in here. This is actually the library of my house. It was a very low budget operation, and we managed to make a game that since then 11 million people have played and has lasted almost 6 years now. It's been an incredible privilege, and I just want to thank all of you for participating in Game of Thrones Ascent. What I want to talk to you about, though, is some of the next steps and where we could take the community that is built around Game of Thrones Ascent. So as you know, a couple months ago, we said that the game was coming to an end, and in that time, I got so many letters from all of you telling me what you wanted to have happen, and there was a surprise I never expected, which was so many of you told me that the community and the social aspects of the game and the mechanics of the game, which you said is really about the teamwork and the balance of the game, the balance between people who chose to pay versus those who didn't. You told me that there was nothing else like it out there on the internet or on mobile games. So, I took that to heart, and I wanted to give it an opportunity to continue. And many of you told me that even without Game of Thrones in Game of Thrones Ascent, you would want to keep playing. And this was a surprise to me. This is an opportunity to deliver on the hopes and dreams of the community who have asked us to build exactly that. So let me tell you a little bit about where we're going to focus in this. So what this Kickstarter is going to do, should you choose to fund it, is really 3 big areas. So number 1, we have to recreate the whole world because there isn't a Westeros anymore. We're going to have to build a game from the ground up that has its own unique world, its own writing, its own stories, its own content, all the names, all the history is actually going to have to be completely remade from scratch. And that's because no element of Game of Thrones can appear in the sequel game. So that's step 1. Number 2, we know that the performance and the reliability of the game is not where any of us would like it to be. It's built on technology that we started building 7 years ago. It's had 11 million installs since then. There's a hell of a lot of cruft in the databases. And there's just frankly architectural decisions that we would have made differently today. We're on a co-located hosting facility that isn't very good. We want to modernize it with Amazon Web Services. So there's a lot we can do there. And that's the second part of this project. We're going to be migrating the entire technology infrastructure of the game to Kingdom Ascent on new platform, new technology, largely stuff that we have learned how to do much better through the process of creating our Star Trek Timelines game, where we had to go back to the drawing board and make a lot of this stuff all over again, put it in Amazon, learn how to optimize databases to these kind of applications. So part of the process, part of Kingdom Ascent, is going to be taking all of this work, using what we have already built elsewhere for things like Star Trek and modernizing the whole experience here, also cleaning up the whole database. We're not going to need to bring over 11 million people. We're only going to bring over a partial subset of the users who participate in the Kickstarter. So that's the second way. We're going to be delivering much greater reliability and performance in this game than we've experienced in the last couple of years. The third is everyone has always emphasized how important Alliance versus Alliance gameplay is. And we know that, but we also know it could be a lot better. And we know that people have done things like power leveled their accounts to get advantages in AVA. We're going to be addressing that. First of all, we're going to largely rewrite a lot of the rules. We're going to approach the meta of AVA to remove a lot of the incentives for wanting to do that in the first place. And we're looking at a lot of different systems. Now, I don't have a whole plan to roll out to you right at this moment, but that leads me to one of the things that I think is very unique about the way we're going to be approaching Kingdom Ascent, and that is this is built for the community, but it's also built by the community. We're going to be asking you for a lot of input. We're going to have you at every step of testing, starting from alpha to beta and so forth. We're going to create a player parliament And that's going to consist of people that are patrons, but also just every player in the game. We want to hear from everybody who's got input on how this game should be developed. And we're going to be listening to your input, and we're going to even put questions to you. So we're going to make decisions about, for example, should AVA have a tiered competition system so that the people who have got level 2,000 characters are playing with each other? Hasn't been decided yet. But that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to use the player parliament to help us decide, and we will put that to the community, and we'll make real decisions on that. As far as I know, this has never been done on a free-to-play game. There's examples of it outside of mobile and social network free-to-play games. In MMORPGs, for example, EVE Online has a similar structure where they really engage the community in helping them make decisions about the course of the game's roadmap. But this is a first for mobile and Facebook games and web-based games. So it's a bold experiment. It's one that hasn't been done before. That's where really you come in next, because to run this experiment, there's not an established market for Kingdom Ascent. Right? It's frankly a difficult project to fund. That's what Kickstarter exists for. When there isn't something with a well-established market, but there's a group of people that's really passionate about it and they want to see it have it happen, that's what this is for. And I'd like to invite you to participate. The way Kickstarter works is if we don't reach our funding goal, no one's going to contribute any money towards this. So we all have to kind of contribute to it. Disruptor Beam is going to contribute to it by helping to build this game and actually do the work that's required. We're going to do that in some cases instead of other things that we could do with those resources. These are hardworking developers who really want to see Kingdom Ascent happen and come together and be successful. And it's going to require capital to make that happen, I think, is the reality of it. The good news is, frankly, the amount of capital to make Kingdom Ascent happen, it's a lot less than it would normally take to build a brand new game. And that's because there's so much there that we can leverage. We've got a community. That's the most important thing. And we've got some game systems, and some of it is broken and some of it isn't working that well. But there's a lot that works really great. And that's why I think there is a community in the first place. So I hope that you will join in this Kickstarter and help fund this project and make this a reality. That's what I wanted to share with you today. So if you have other questions, post the questions on Kickstarter in the questions area. Look at the facts. That answers a lot of other questions that people have about how this will happen. And we've made a lot of really interesting tier rewards. So it's possible to participate at a relatively modest level, but it's also got some really interesting ways that you can participate that isn't just about getting more power in the game. Something all of you told us before we set out on this was, if we're going to do it, let's make sure that these tier rewards are not game mechanical advantages. Yes, you will get gold, which is part of the everyday play of any of our games, but the things that you're going to get and walk away with, they're not going to be things that are going to give you a big advantage in the game, but they'll be something that maybe allows you to play a legendary role in the history of the creation of Kingdom Ascent. So thanks, and I'll see you online and hope to see you in Kingdom Ascent.